All right, Brother Moses here. I'm just going to do a quick coronavirus update for the state that I'm in, sharing some of the tools and resources that I use to stay informed. Hopefully, if you like this video, you will like this video. And if you know somebody that likes this type of content, you can share it with them. So a couple of the tools that I actually use to stay informed, I got to tell you, it is Bing. Bing, I like when it comes to seeing how the coronavirus is playing out in the spaces near me. They do have a very streamlined version of looking at the testing by state. And so I would like to share that. But before I get into it, as you may know, I am right here in Arizona. And it was important to me to see by the county, what does the coronavirus look like? What does that response look like? It's one thing to just have the conversation from the lens of what the government is doing and some of the changes they're making. There's the major updates with stimulus relief to help, some of that economic hardship that we're all experiencing out here. There's another for me to be an African American and actually stating, and earmarking, tagging, hashtagging some of the major players and senior leaders about the race-based data that we would actually need to make more informed decisions moving forward as we continue to try to flatten this curve and fight the spread. And then also information, just fact checking, like on the vaccination chloroquine or whatever it was called, and so forth, and the different anti-malarial treatments and other type of treatments. Doing that research is good. I try to bring that as much as I can, but then sometimes I got to bring it home, which is why I did the one here today, looking at Arizona. Now, Arizona is interesting, right? Because typically being a Republican-held state, it would seem like they don't want a lot of government intervention and all of that, but there is a perfect storm of conditions that make their government officials' job that much more complicated, but that more necessary. I'm gonna tell you right up front, when it comes to the Arizona's response to the coronavirus, if I was to give them a letter grade, I give the leaders here an F. And if there was a letter after F, I'm not saying incomplete. I'm not saying, just turn in some extra credit. I would give them an absolute F on a number of different areas, right? So the social distancing measures, closing down some of the businesses, allowing others to stay open, that is a state of confusion. Some of the major businesses putting the duct tape on the ground to mark 6 feet. There's no way to actually enforce duct tape on the ground and people passing as they move through some of those bigger stores or wherever they have access. And so because of that, that's not an actual measure. That was, and in fact, it was maybe private businesses who were actually doing that. Still have some state parks and things open, like Arizona, where you can actually go and see that some people have masks, some don't. But it's still a place that's open to the public right now. Beautiful place, by the way. So many reasons, right? The government's response is going to be measured in its ability to do two things for me, though, specifically, and this is why they get an F. Number one is the quality of the data that they've been able to provide and thus give people the ability to make more informed decisions. I'll say that again, the quality of the data that they're able to provide and thus empower people or enable people to make more informed decisions. That's number one. And then number two, if the backbone of the coronavirus response will be the testing, contact tracing, and testing, then that is the other measure that I think you can also apply in your states. You can look and say, well, how many have been tested? What does that look like? What does the data look like? Is it rich data? Is it full of, full? Is it enough to actually make informed decisions and then give that information back through your lens of media, through your social media, and in other areas? I find us here in Arizona to be lacking. And so our leadership so far, after 1 month of, I say 1 month because there was the 16 days to stop the spread that was announced and launched on March 16th. And that put it through like April 1st or whatever it was. And then since then, so it's been about just over a month. And that's how I kind of chronicle it. I know that it does go back over more than a month, though. So let's get into it. So the first thing that I want to look at here is just some basic information. Number one, this protest that happened, this rally at Arizona, to reopen a state, I think is very, very irresponsible on the people's side, but it's a natural response from the people who are dealing with a lack of information and they don't have the data they need to make a more informed decision. Arizona is an open carry state, place like that. A lot of gun enthusiasts and Second Amendment folks here, and so these type of rallies are already a part of a naturally hostile environment, right? And so because of that, them going down to the Capitol with their hostilities and the fact that they're open carry, I think it's just risk on top of risk. Number one is the risk of the pandemic. The reporter can have on this makeshift, mask. It's not going to protect them from anything, but they can have on the mask, but you'll still see people in the background who don't have the mask. And so all of the different objects and things that may touch or that may enable transmission of the coronavirus are still there. And all of these people are gathered there just to say, open it. Now, that's a problem to me. Number one, I don't really go against the whole fact that they're open carry. I could care one less about that. I do know that it is a volatile mix when you're dealing with somebody who's already afraid and they are armed and they are looking to defend themselves and they have not declared an exact from who or from what. We know by these pictures that they're absolutely not there to defend themselves against the coronavirus or to stop the spread of the coronavirus. So who are they armed and ready to defend themselves from by going to the Capitol? I'm not saying that it's a threat on the Capitol, but this is how that threat can be perceived when you have those armed folks going down there despite the stay-at-home order and so forth. So that was the big one there, this protest here in Arizona. Right there up the street from me, less than 5 miles away. The next one, and this is just as a response to show a counter sectional a response from Massachusetts and their leadership versus and where Massachusetts is versus where we are. So Massachusetts is already at the position of launching contact tracing programs to help stop the coronavirus spread. And we are still here dealing with people who will not adhere to a basic stay-at-home order, right? And we're dealing with a government here and its representatives who are essentially allowing that criminality, that violation of that national guide. But, they then equivocate and say it's up to the states to determine. I'm sure that the state has not declared not stay at home. But again, when I was looking at the information on what the stay-at-home guides would be and which businesses were closing, there wasn't a lot of consistency there, thus the F rating. But even despite that, the people are still looking to violate even those specific orders. And so because of that, you look at the program or state to state, Massachusetts launching contact tracing programs, which is next level for us, right? Next level response. And then us where we just don't have that level of leadership. So the next bullet here or the next slide here will deal with why it's important, right? Because the contact tracing is one thing and the ability and the systems and the programs to conduct contact tracing, but it should still lead to a space. And right now we know that that is to lead towards the testing. And if your data does not support having a high priority, then you may not actually receive the test that you need, whether those are the nose swabs or the blood samples that they would actually need to be able to give the real diagnostic. So let's take that and break that down just a little bit. The nose swab, what are we looking for? Are you looking for traces of coronavirus inside of someone's nose? Because it's going to be hard to find the antibodies that their body created inside of someone's nose with a simple nose swab. So they would need something more advanced like the blood to see if it's in their blood already. And I'm not sure that they get that with just a finger prick, but if that's what they're saying they're able to do is get antibodies for the coronavirus inside of just a simple finger prick, then that's their information. Right now, I'm a skeptic of that. I think that it would need more exhaustive lab work done, more than just a finger prick and more than just a nose swab to actually do an efficient testing for the coronavirus. But however, the testing is going to be necessary if our true intention is to help stop the spread and to flatten that curve. All right. And so the testing is the big driver. That's the, what is it leading to? And we can have more of those conversations later. So let me jump right now into where I go when I'm looking for the information that I need. It's right here on Bing. And the reason why I like it is because it does break down. This is the tool and the resource that I would say other folks should jump into. Many might use Yahoo, some would use Google. but I would say go right there to Bing because how clean it is. And once you click on that state, you're able to see the number of confirmed cases, you're able to see the number of deaths, and then the number of recovered. Now, this is proving the entire point of why I gave this quick update, because as you see here, the recovered column, it was right above the recovered column, you'll see updated April 20th at 2:39, which was about 10 minutes ago or 21 minutes ago now, or a little bit more, just around 30 minutes ago. Let me refresh it just so that we can have that available here. All right, so its last update was 2:59. A total of confirmed cases 4,929, which was an increase of 422 cases somewhere in Arizona. Now, when I say somewhere in Arizona, for me, that's not good enough as being somebody who has a family and kids who operate inside of these spaces. The deaths, I'm not as much concerned with how severe it's impacting those folks, although my heart does go out to any of those families and those households that may have lost a loved one. But 184 deaths with an increase of 15 on the day. They have that information, but once you hit this breakdown, these are all of the counties that they listed, but they're still only showing one confirmed death. Now, up here, they have even 15 deaths today, 184 total. Where are those deaths? Where is the coronavirus and its most potent strands? If there is some polymorphism happening, or whatever that scientific word is when they say the thing has changed, if there is a more severe strain, or if it's just the regular strain, where is it causing the most deaths inside of the state where I live at? We see the most confirmed cases. For me, that is indicative of, well, there are more people who have coronavirus in Maricopa County. Could be for a number of different reasons, right? The airport being here, and a different thing, the major airport, the density, the population density, just how many of us are right here in Maricopa County versus some of those smaller places where they may have a little bit more room in between themselves. Social distancing measures, how many spaces inside of the general public were actually closed, how many still operate, things like that that could contribute to why there is more confirmed cases here in Maricopa County. But that's going to be important as we move into the next phases, right? The contact tracing as well as the testing. Maricopa County's numbers not being adequate or sufficiently reported, or having this big data gap in their ability to report, is going to be a problem as we compete against those states like Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Washington, New York in general, and California, Maryland, Alabama, Florida, some of those other states, for those resources, for those test kits. We can have a high transmission area here with so many people, a dense population right in Maricopa County. We could have so many more people who are actually carrying it that aren't being given the proper tests, and so much more, that it's a perfect storm for the coronavirus to grow exponentially rather than to be flattened. And I attribute that to the leadership and their actual response. You can't just put that one on the people if the people don't receive the information that they need to make the more informed decisions that govern their house and their lives. So for many of us, we're operating under this lens of, we have this continuous media stream telling us things. That media has been shifting and changing. Wear masks, don't wear masks, and so forth. Stay at home. You're free to go outside. It's just been shifting. So we're following reactively, but we need to be in a position where we can make decisions proactively. And in order to do so, we need the people who have the access to that information to get it together. Get it together, Arizona. Get it together, Arizonians. If you know somebody in Arizona specifically, share this with them so maybe they can raise their voice and share it on their social media as well. However, if you don't know somebody there in Arizona, but you are looking to be able to process that information, see what it's like in your spaces, we're also jumping into this conversation, right? We need racial data transparency. And so I went to Johns Hopkins. They said it's only 2 states that actually have that race-based data so far. There are others that are working on it, like Connecticut and Los Angeles, but they're not the state. They're just smaller portions of those states. But we need that. Our pre-existing conditions cannot be ignored. We have a vulnerable population as well that needs to be able to make the informed decision whether to get the vaccination or the treatment. You know, you go to the doctor, you're supposed to be able to trust the doctor, but this is a novel coronavirus, something that we know we don't have a treatment for yet. So they're just going to be trying anything. And before an African American consents to just try anything that the doctor is going to give them because it may have worked on some 97-year-old white man or some 50-year-old Caucasian woman or whoever it is that they said it worked on, they need the information. They need to make the decisions that impact their lives. It's their lives. We need our information. And so I appreciate that. But you can go here. You'll see the confirmed states, 34 confirmed states, the deaths by states. Typically, you would be able to select any of these ones, but this is John Hopkins, and it's a little bit harder to drill down in the John Hopkins data than it is on just the regular Bing, like I showed a little bit earlier. And so because of that, I wanted to give my Arizona update. Hopefully that inspires you. Look, you have social media. You can get on there and say, this is the number of people who are in my state so far. How has it impacted you in either your own personal life, the decisions that you've made, or how is it impacting your states? Share that information. It's not going anywhere. We'll still be here. The government leaders are deciding whether or not they open back up the public in general, even knowing that there are data discrepancies where they still don't know, but yet they're willing to do it. Even knowing that supply and demand resources have not been met to get the appropriate number of even test kits. So if you did have the symptoms and you wanted to report, hey, I have some symptoms, they still have spaces in some of our states and some of our local municipalities that cannot get you the accurate tests. And so be sure that you check out whatever government resources that may be available if you do know that's symptomatic or if yourself is symptomatic. Share that information. And then continue to just have the conversation in general. What does it mean? Are you nervous about anxiety, or do you have privacy issues that you're looking at and government surveillance, you know, the tin hat type thinking? Are you worried about the vaccination, malaria shots for coronavirus? It didn't seem to make sense, but okay. Are they spraying in your area like they were trying to fight against malaria and trying to kill mosquitoes? So now they're just spraying something in the air and you don't even know what that is. Maybe your concern is the 5G and its correlation. And so you're looking at it from a cellular phone level rather than a cellular biology level. Whatever your concerns, I would say continue to have that conversation. It's not going anywhere. African Americans, we will be ignored wholly in this situation, in despite the fact that places like Chicago said more than 50% of those were African Americans. But you may not live in Chicago, so it probably went right over your head. What about where you live? Use some of the resources that we have made available here today. Take those across your journey. Continue to keep people informed. Do your part there. Stay safe and stay your ass at home. B1 Brother Moses, that's all I got right now. I thank you and salute. Let me see how I get out of this joint. And I'm out.